Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
I'm James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and World Changes News. Chinese coronavirus can kill up to 30 million people in 6 months. The panic is beginning to cover not only the Chinese, whose government quarantined the whole city of 11 million people, but also the world. It complicates the situation, the fact that today people can travel between continents in just a couple of hours. The Institute for Disease Modeling presented a map showing that in 6 months a new strain could kill 30 million people. The 1918 similar flu killed 50 million people. And also the coronavirus, the first UK patients were being treated for suspected deadly virus after traveling from China. World Health Organization say it is too early to declare an international public health emergency. But 6 people are being tested in the UK for suspected coronavirus, which has infected hundreds of people in Wuhan, China, and spread to other countries, including the UK. There are 5 suspected cases in Scotland and 1 in Ireland. Canadian water bomber plane crashes amid Australia brush fires, and 3 people unfortunately died. And that was on Thursday, the 23rd, around 10 a.m. The victims were American residents. Australian authorities said they did not immediately know why the plane crashed while carrying a load of fire retardant. Everest is melting, revealing tons of garbage and human bodies. The world's highest garbage dump is throwing up trash and corpses that lay buried for decades as commercial mountaineering meets climate change. What that means is that the dead bodies, some who've been lost for years, have started emerging from the ice. And along with the bodies, tons of garbage, cans, bottles, discarded climbing gear, and human waste are defrosting along the route used by mountaineers over decades. Volcanic eruption turned victims' brains to glass. This dire fate awaited the residents of the Herculaneum when Mount Vesuvius erupted in the year 79. It was enough to boil the blood, vaporize flesh, and also, according to researchers, turn brains into glass. Deja vu theory. Believers in this theory claim that the human experience of deja vu can be explained by considering the unsettling feeling of having lived a moment before as a crossover with a parallel universe. This would mean that whatever you're doing while experiencing the deja vu, a parallel version of you is doing exactly the same thing in a different universe simultaneously, therefore creating an alignment between the two universes. Are you brave enough to go to the Hoyo Baciu Forest? It's considered the most haunted forest in the world, located in Romania. Hundreds of people have gone missing there. Seen UFOs, seen orange, red balls of light, mist, women's voices have been heard, laughter, and people being scratched. In the center of the forest lies a circle where plant life doesn't grow. This spot is believed to be the portal to another dimension. Next news break tomorrow night.
Good evening, or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to you worldwide. Get yourself a cup of Java and find a comfy, easy chair. And get ready for Gary and his guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark. And now, here's Gary.
And here I am, and I'll tell you, I'm getting better with that golf club. I can just swing it perfect without hitting anything in the studio. You know, if you want to check out the latest pictures of the dark side or the back side, whatever you want to say of the moon, you can certainly go onto our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com and scroll down. I have some pictures or a picture from the Chinese rover of the dark side of the moon. I tell you what, it's really eerie, too. Our guest tonight is internationally known radio personality, podcast host, author, artist, and lecturer, and ordained minister, Barbara Delong. Hi, Barbara.
Hey there.
Boy, I can say that in one whole breath. I'm doing good.
I often think that having a resume that goes that long is a detriment because, I just once said to somebody, why don't you just say, here's Barbara, she's really a nice person, and let everybody make up their mind. The credentials get to be a little bit heavy.
Okay, can you hang on for a minute, Barbara?
Sure.
Okay, well, we're just back from the news. Our guest tonight is Barbara Delong. She's just a great person. There we go.
That works.
Okay. So anyway, UFOs, government conspiracies, the secret Space Force. Do you think the Space Force is a cover-up to something that maybe has already been in existence for a long time? Because I will say, I think it has been. That's just my feeling. I
truly believe there is a secret Space Force. And I think that it was amazing that there's a wonderful video out there called Above Majestic that runs, I think it runs at least an hour, maybe two, that Corey Good is in and a lot of other, amazing people. And they talk about the fact that this secret space program has been out there for decades and decades, and that finally the president has been read in on its existence, which is one of the reasons that our president did create a space program, a space, Air Force, Marines, and there's now a space program, official space program for the U.S. government, because it's my understanding that he was briefed that there's one already out there, and that to create one that everybody knew about would make it easier for them to sort of blend in and people be made aware of the fact that it's been out there for, 30 years, 40 years, a long time.
I think so, because, I was talking about last night on the show or the night before, Germany, towards the end of the war, started developing jets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they lost the war. Less than a year after World War II, we already had jet fighters, a couple of them. They were testing that were capable of breaking the sound barrier. And I find the technology to start from scratch, develop a jet engine, and develop the right, what do you call it, the plane, and all this stuff to do this in less than a year's time after World War II. I find it very strange.
Well, that Project Paperclip, we brought all their scientists over here, and they created our space program.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that.
Werner von Braun was the head of our space program. All of our rockets were, kind of one-offs of what Germany already had. And they had, they were working with anti-gravity things. They had there's a structure that's a ring of circle. It's a circle with pillars in it, and they were levitating stuff in the middle of it. So they were far, far, far ahead of us, and they had a super weapon that became our atom bomb. So the reason our technology jumped is because we took all of their scientists and we made them American citizens.
You are so right. But even still, what I find very hard, because my dad worked for Boeing Aircraft. He was an electronic engineer. He was developing things for... You remember when Boeing Aircraft one time was going to come out with the super transport plane back in the 60s, the SST? And he was developing electronics for it. My dad said, you know what, a lot of this stuff is strange, but he wouldn't talk about it. He just said that our technology seemed to take a big jump really strangely fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think also, we were doing reverse engineering on a lot of the craft ships that we picked up on, too. And at one point, the Army and the Navy each had their own crafts that they were reverse engineering. And I think the really sad part about all of this is that the government was really doing it to use it as a weapon instead of using the technology to make things better for the general public. I mean, look at what happened with Tesla. I mean, with his energy, he wanted to give everybody free electricity, and because he didn't want to charge people for it, he's the one that got shoved aside, and Edison got the contract because he could charge for the electrical power, and Tesla, I do believe, continued to do experimentation, and when he died, and I don't think he died naturally, a lot of his notebooks were missing when they started to try to pull his stuff together. So, and they're now beginning to use Tesla energy. So he was way ahead of his time.
Oh, yeah. At the time, I think it was the CEO of General Electric or whatever was funding Tesla because, Tesla wanted to, again, he was showing that he could harvest electricity from the sky and the ground. But when he said, I want to give it to the American population, I want to give it to the world for free, then they immediately shut his funding off. They purposely did a lot to sabotage him. And basically, the last few years of Tesla's life, he wasn't even normal anymore from what they did to him. You have to look at it this way. I was telling James the other night, just think about this. We have somebody who is running for president. It says, well, in 15 years from now, if I'm elected president, there'll be no more gas cars. Everything will be electric. I don't buy that because you know what? Big pockets. They make their money from oil. It's not going to happen. The same way Tesla, when he came out and found ways to harvest electricity, which could have, saved, everybody, where we wouldn't have to be paying huge bills in the winter for power, right?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah. They didn't want that because if they couldn't make money off of it, if it would destroy the economy, they didn't want it to exist. Well,
do you know, I believe that one of the people that was sent to collect all of his notebooks was a relative of Trump's.
I heard that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he took anything or anything like that, but I just find it an interesting coincidence. But, a lot of his material, there was he used the building he was living in as a generator. He didn't stop experimenting. He just stopped being open about it.
Yeah, just think.
And I seriously believe that he was killed.
I think, yes. I think he was assassinated because of his beliefs. Again, they didn't want... You have to look at big business, government. Let's face it, government's tied in with big business.
Yeah.
And it's that would have really destroyed the economy. If all of a sudden you had, free power, free everything. I mean, look at the oil companies. Down the road, it would have affected the oil companies. It would have changed our whole way of life. Well,
that's true. And I think that there is a government beyond our government. I think those people that are in our government today are pawns. I don't think they really have the power they think they do. I think there is another organization above and beyond them that is manipulating the entire world, for that matter.
I think it's been going on really heavy since the early 60s.
Oh, yeah. And so, every time you think that there's something here that could be... See, I believe they've even cured cancer.